When you think of 1960s science fiction, certain images instantly come to mind: flashing control panels, silver space suits, and a robot shouting,
"Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!"
But behind those iconic moments lies a hidden story, one of struggle, resilience, and quiet rebellion. And at the heart of it all was a young woman named Marta Kristen, whose truth about the Lost in Space set remained buried for decades until now. Today, at 80 years old, Marta Kristen finally opens up about what really happened behind the scenes of one of television's most beloved shows and her revelations reshape everything we thought we knew about. It begins in the gray aftermath of war-torn Europe. Born in Oslo, Norway in 1945, to a Finnish mother and a German soldier, Marta's early life was marked by chaos and displacement. When she was barely 2 years old, she was placed in an orphanage, her identity uncertain, her future undefined. Years later, she was adopted by an American couple and brought to Detroit. To the outside world, it looked like the start of a fairy tale, the orphan girl given a second chance. But Marta never forgot the feeling of being a stranger between worlds, a feeling that would eerily echo the role that would later make her famous. In her teenage years, fate took an unexpected turn. A Detroit school play caught the attention of a visiting producer who saw something magnetic in her presence. Soon after, Marta found herself in Los Angeles, a city of sunlight and illusion, ready to chase a dream she had never dared to imagine. Marta's early Hollywood career was a whirlwind. She signed with MGM, landed minor roles in Beach Blanket Bingo and Savage Sam, and caught the attention of casting directors who praised her classic beauty and mysterious calm. Yet, like many young actresses of her era, Marta was often seen rather than heard admired for her looks, but rarely offered roles with real depth. Everything changed in 1965, when Irwin Allen cast her as Judy Robinson, the eldest daughter of the spacefaring Robinson family in Lost in Space. It was a dream come true, at least on paper. The show promised adventure, innovation, and a chance to be part of something groundbreaking. But what Marta soon discovered was that Hollywood's idea of groundbreaking often came with limits, especially for women. Behind the cheerful facade of the Jupiter 2 and the family's futuristic adventures, tension simmered. Marta recalled that while the show celebrated exploration and courage on screen, it often mirrored the same rigid hierarchies off-camera that the Robinsons supposedly left behind on Earth. She and co-star Angela Cartwright, who played her younger sister Penny, quickly bonded two young women navigating an industry that didn't quite know what to do with them. The scripts often gave them little to do beyond reacting to their male counterparts. For Marta, who had come to Hollywood with dreams of acting depth, this felt like a silent cage. In later interviews, she admitted that there were moments she considered walking away the monotony of the role. The lack of character development, the sense of being ornamental rather than integral. "I wanted Judy to do something," she once said. But week after week, she was left waiting in the background. The on-set dynamics reflected that imbalance. Jonathan Harris, the flamboyant Dr. Smith, and the robot stole much of the spotlight intentionally. So, as Irwin Allen realized, audiences loved their comic interplay. But that shift in focus came at a cost. The human relationships that gave the show its soul began to fade into the backdrop. What few people knew was how personally this sidelining affected Marta. She had fought so hard to belong from the orphanage to adoption, from Detroit to Hollywood. And now she found herself once again on the edge of something that didn't fully include her. There was a quiet frustration among the cast, especially the younger members. Marta later revealed that Bill Mumy and Angela Cartwright often discussed how much potential their characters had, only to see episodes revolve increasingly around slapstick humor. "It stopped being a show about a family," she said. "It became a circus in space." And yet, amidst this creative conflict, Marta found something unexpected: a chosen family. The cast shared genuine affection, even when the scripts didn't. She often spoke of the laughter between takes, of Jonathan Harris's wit and warmth, and of how Guy Williams, who played her father, treated her with fatherly care. The Robinsons may have been fictional, but the bonds were real, and that, perhaps, is why Lost in Space continues to resonate today. When the show was canceled in 1968, after 3 seasons, it felt like the end of an era. The futuristic sets were dismantled, the costumes packed away, and the cast scattered across Hollywood, each trying to navigate the uncertain post-series landscape. For Marta, the cancellation hit hard. She had invested not just her time, but her identity, into Judy Robinson. And suddenly, it was over, without closure or explanation. "We didn't even know we were filming the final episode," she once said. We found out after the fact. What followed was silence, years of roles that never quite captured her again, of opportunities that slipped away in an industry quick to forget. She took time away from Hollywood, focusing on her family and personal life. But even in the quiet years, the shadow of Lost in Space lingered, both a blessing and a burden. Decades later, as nostalgia swept through Hollywood and fans began rediscovering the series, Marta found herself pulled back into orbit. Reunions, conventions, and fan letters poured in from people who had grown up with Judy Robinson as their childhood crush, their role model, or their sci-fi sister. For the first time, Marta began to see her character differently. Judy wasn't just a sidelined daughter, she was a symbol of quiet strength, of poise under pressure, of enduring grace in a chaotic world. And that reflection mirrored Marta herself. In recent years, she curated a personal collection of over 600 never-before-seen photographs, intimate snapshots from behind the scenes of Lost in Space and her early life. Each picture told a story of laughter, of resilience, of dreams deferred and rediscovered. The book became not just a tribute to the show, but a reclamation of her own narrative. At 80, Marta Kristen doesn't speak with bitterness. She speaks with clarity, acknowledging the struggles, but also the immense gratitude for the journey that shaped her. "I found belonging," she says, "not in Hollywood's idea of success, but in the people who still remember. What really happened on that set?" So, what did Marta finally confirm about what happened on the Lost in Space set? The truth isn't scandal, it's revelation. She confirmed that, yes, tensions existed. Creative frustrations were real. But there was also love, camaraderie, and a sense of purpose that no studio politics could erase. The story wasn't about mistreatment or betrayal, it was about visibility, about how women in 1960s television were often written out of their own stories. Marta's honesty forces us to look deeper, not just at Lost in Space, but at an entire era of Hollywood that often sidelined its brightest stars. And through her voice, we see the show anew. Not as a campy sci-fi relic, but as a capsule of ambition, limitation, and quiet defiance. Time, as Marta knows, has a way of revealing what was once hidden. Today, when she attends fan conventions, people of all ages approach her not to ask about fame or glamour, but to thank her. To thank her for being part of something that made their childhoods magical, that inspired them to dream beyond the stars. The little girl from a Norwegian orphanage had once looked up at the night sky, wondering if she'd ever belong anywhere. Decades later, she helped an entire generation feel at home among the stars. That's the untold legacy of Marta Kristen, not just as Judy Robinson, but as a woman who refused to fade into the background. A woman who endured, evolved, and eventually reclaimed her story. And perhaps that's the real secret behind Lost in Space. It wasn't about being stranded in the cosmos, it was about finding your way home.